Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. 5 breakout candidates for the Florida State Seminoles heading into that 2024 year. Really excited to get into this one. And as spring practice rolls around, I kind of want to get some names into the notebook in terms of guys that we're watching, monitoring, reading the spring practice notes, and kind of monitoring the development that they have. The hardest part about this episode was whittling it down to only 5 names. I had about 10 to 12 names that I wanted to include. Super excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. And as always, a massive shout out to the Florida State fans. Y'all know this is a program that I absolutely love talking about and can't thank the Florida State fans enough for rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, the best part about doing these kind of episodes is hearing from you guys, learning from you guys in the comment section. I have 5 names that I'm going to give you guys. Would love to hear some names that I might be sleeping on, that I need to be adding to the notebook heading into that spring practice season. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. And now let's get into it. And the first player that we have on the list, and for the longtime Florida State listeners, you guys know this guy was going to be a breakout candidate for me, and that is safety Conrad Hyde. And let's start with the pros of Conrad Hyde. And I think it first starts with 2 things. One, from a physical trait standpoint, Conrad Hyde checks so many boxes, and you can tell this Florida State staff absolutely loves what Conrad Hyde brings to the table. Every chance they had to get him on the field, they were taking that opportunity. Started in that bowl game against Georgia. From a physical trait standpoint, there's not really a thing that Conrad Hyde does not bring to the table. He has the athleticism and range to play that free safety role, have the range to go sideline to sideline, but also a guy that has the frame and the potential physicality to come up in the box, put hands on wide receivers, tight ends, be a force in the run game. When you have a safety that can do so many different things like Conrad Hyde can, that is kind of the ultimate chess piece in a defense. Now, Conrad Hyde, as a true freshman, played a lot of football and definitely went through some growing pains, right? You go back to the film, you see some blown assignments, you see some bad angles. You want to see him be a little bit more physical as a tackler. I mean, this is a guy that has the frame, the physical traits to be a physical tackler, a guy that can come in and be a force in the run game. I think there were some adjustments in terms of the speed of the game, diagnosing what's in front of him. And that largely, in my mind, comes with more reps. This is a guy that, again, was a true freshman. I think gets another season and offseason under his belt where he's probably going to be taking a lot of ones or reps with the ones. A guy that I think is going to explode onto the scene as he develops more of those instincts and just a better feel for the college level of a game, because this is a guy that from a physical trait standpoint, you're absolutely in love with the range, the ball skills, the physicality that he can play with. Now you just want to see him put it on the field. And again, with more reps, I certainly think that is going to come. And you know the staff is a massive fan of Conrad Hyde. The next guy I want to go to, and this is an odd breakout candidate for me because he's going into his 5th year of college football, and that's Lawrence Tuafili. This is a guy that whenever he touches the football has the ability to make truly game-changing plays. He just hasn't necessarily gotten the opportunities that you wanted, right? The most carries that he had in a game was 10 carries against Louisville in the ACC championship game, where he went for over 118 yards, was the ACC championship MVP. I mean, he sat behind Trey Benson, largely one of the best, if not the best running back in the country the last 2 years. Hasn't necessarily gotten the workload. And I don't even think Lawrence Tuafili is a guy that's going to get 20-plus carries per game. But with Trey Benson leaving the program, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, a lot of the guys that were getting those touches in 2023, Lawrence Tuafili to me is more than just a running back. This is a guy that is an offensive weapon, a game changer on the offensive side of the football. Every time that he touches the field, you see the carry, you see the stats last year. I mean, 69 carries, averaged 6.7 yards per carry. Here's the number that was the kicker, and this is kind of why I'm so optimistic about Lawrence Tuafili going into 2024, 4.3 yards after contact. That the whole narrative around Lawrence Tuafili, the one thing that you wanted to see him take strides in was the contact balance and being a running back or a ball carrier that can get downhill and absorb contact. We know what he can do in space in terms of making people miss, hitting the big play. Can he be a guy that absorbs contact, be more of an all-purpose back at the college level? I think you saw him take strides in doing that in 2024 and into year 5, where Florida State has to replace a lot of offensive skill. Lawrence Tuafili is going to be a guy that's not only getting a lot of carries, but going to get a lot of touches in general. Also has 67 catches for over 690 yards during his college football career. Lawrence Tuafili, a guy that I think Mike Norvell is going to get extremely creative in the ways that he gets in the football. And with just more touches for a guy like Lawrence, I think is going to be a massive contributor for this Florida State offense. Sign me up for a massive breakout year for Lawrence Tuafili at that running back spot that I think is truly a strength of this unit. I mean, you bring in a guy like Roydell Williams, Cam Davis as a true freshman. This is a running back room that, yes, you lose Trey Benson. He was phenomenal. I think it's a really good running back room heading into 2024. The next guy I want to talk about, and probably my favorite player for Florida State heading into that 2024 year, that's Azeez Thomas. This was a player that coming out of high school was just kind of a freak athlete, right? Had all the length in the world, played two ways at the high school level, and I think kind of had to get his feet wet at that cornerback position. And you saw him really break out in 2023, which I might be cheating a little bit with Azeez Thomas. I don't know if he's fully a breakout candidate because I think he might have had his breakout in 2023. But you look at Fentrell Cypress and Thomas as your bookend corners, your boundary corners. That is a very good cornerback room where I think the arrow for a guy like Thomas is just going in the right direction. Again, this is only year 3 of college football for him, a guy that had to kind of make the transition from playing wide receiver at high school to that cornerback position. Year 3 is when you see the breakouts. And this is a guy that kind of broke out early in 2023. I think you see a massive breakout for Azeez Thomas going into 2024. Last year faced 41 targets, only gave up 20 catches. The length combined with how smooth of a mover he is, this is an all-ACC cornerback in my eyes and a guy I am truly excited about, especially given the development that you've seen Florida State have with that defensive back room. Pat Surtain doing a phenomenal job with this position group. Azeez Thomas, all-ACC caliber guy in 2024. The next guy I want to talk about, and this is, kind of low-hanging fruit, and I went back and forth at what wide receiver I wanted to pick as my breakout candidate, and I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit here, and that is Heem Williams. And a lot of probably non-Florida State fans that look at the rankings and say, oh, Heem Williams didn't get on the field much as a 5-star prospect, as a true freshman, probably not that good of a wide receiver. Two things that I think Florida State fans understand, but I don't think a lot of college football fans understand is, one, you had Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson on this team in 2023. It was hard to get reps if you're a true freshman wide receiver, if you were a 5-star or a 3-star. It was hard to find the field as a true freshman with how good this wide receiver room was. But more importantly, with a guy like Heem Williams, we knew he was a project kind of wide receiver. We knew all the physical traits were there, but did not play very high-level high school football, was a really raw athlete coming in. Even if Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson weren't in the room, he probably was going to need that freshman year to get some development, to get some more nuance in his route running. Year 2, I think Florida State fans knew Heem Williams was a kind of a year 2 guy. I am extremely excited about not only what he can do, but the opportunity that he's going to have with guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson leaving the program. You look at this wide receiver room, you have a guy like Malik Benson, who I am super excited about. The other guy I wanted to shout out was Kentron. He is another just kind of freak show athlete on the boundary. You got, I think what's kind of fun about this wide receiver room for Florida State is you have a lot of Heem Williams type players where they have very special gifts. Okay, which of those guys are going to put it together in 2024? Heem Williams is going to be on my list. Probably one of the players that I'm most excited about to read spring practice notes and kind of hear what the development looks like for Heem Williams, a guy that we're going to be talking a lot about during spring practice. And the last name I want to shout out, and another position group that I wanted to include one of these guys, and I wasn't sure who to go with. I was waffling between Darrell Jackson and Daniel Lyons, and I ended up going with Daniel Lyons. Now, that is not a knock on Darrell Jackson, who, again, sat out all of that 2023 year, a guy that I think is going to be a staple on that Florida State defensive line. Daniel Lyons, again, similar conversation to Azeez Thomas. He's only going into year 3. That's normally, especially guys who play along the line of scrimmage, that's when you see that jump, because it is hard going from the high school level to the college football level and to adjust physically along the line of scrimmage. Year 3, you see the jump. Daniel Lyons was a really good pass rusher for Florida State, had almost a 9% pass rush win rate on the inside. I think he's improved his physicality against the run, winning at the point of attack. This is probably my guy that if you look back and say, who emerged for Florida State along the line of scrimmage with losing guys like Fabian Lovett and Braden Fisk, I'm going to go with Daniel Lyons. But again, you talk about guys like Daryl Jackson, Daniel Lyons, Josh Farmer, who really kind of broke out onto the scene in 2023, but kind of tapered off in 2024. You got a bunch of young guys on this defensive line that you're really excited about what year 3 brings for a guy like Daniel Lyons. Those are my 5 breakout candidates. Again, I kind of cheated, mentioned a couple other guys that I wanted to include on the list. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, some of your breakout candidates for that 2024 year. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.